Oh, yes.
But
Yes,
no.
we are live now.
Great. For once, I was on time this
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
so I'm a lot more chill than last time when I literally arrived like 2 minutes before we were going
yeah.
live. So, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. This is Chaos and Amazement.
Where we explore the impact of digital technology on our daily lives. And my name is Phil Verheyen, and
My name is Clo and together we've built socialrunners.com, where marketing profiles like me can book creatives like Phil.
Chloe,
Yeah.
this
Phil.
week, a lot of tech news.
A lot of tech news. Remember that we talked about the European Digital Markets Act, which went into effect on the 25th of August, which was last week.
Yeah,
And it kind of last week, I thought it would be all over in the news because it's a pretty big deal. But it wasn't. It is this week that a
okay.
lot of the tech giants are realizing what the consequences are of the Digital Markets Act. And to be honest, at first, when I saw the communication around it, I thought it would be another privacy-related European, regulation,
GDPR,
yeah,
yeah.
something like that, because that's what the European institutions are known for compared to
Hmm.
Chinese market or American markets. But no, it is the Digital Markets Act, and what it does, it tries to protect the European markets in theory. So the act is made to stimulate European tech giants, and there are not a lot of those. I think Spotify.
Spotify, yeah.
Spotify is one of them. I can't even think of another one. Be Real was supposed to be one. There's not a lot of European big names. There's
No,
no European alternative for Facebook or Google,
no.
like there is a Chinese
Yeah.
alternative or a Russian alternative. There isn't a European
The
one.
most of the applications are CRM tools or something like that.
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the big tech giants, the top 10 in Europe, for example, most of them, with the exception of TikTok, I think, are from Silicon Valley. So the Digital Markets Act wants to stimulate European initiatives by trying to break the quasi monopoly that these have. Because if you look at, for example, operating systems for mobile, it's either Google, Android, or it's Apple. When you look at social media, it's either Facebook slash WhatsApp slash Messenger,
Instagram,
Instagram, and
yeah.
the others, or yeah, probably TikTok or Snapchat or one of the others.
Mm.
So it's when you want to advertise online, again, it's the choice between Facebook and Google, basically.
Yeah.
So for a lot of what we're trying to do, what you need tech platforms for, the only two big choices are usually both from Silicon Valley. So that is what the Digital Markets Act is trying to do. And as a lot of these legal acts, the text itself is quite complicated, but a very simple way to explain it is with this example.
Mhm.
If you buy a paid, if you pay for an app on your iPhone, a paid app, I can't think of one.
Subscription or one time?
Subscription,
Yeah.
yeah, or a one-time fee.
Almost
A
every
game,
app today. Yeah.
for example. A lot of the games
Yeah.
actually have in-app purchases. When you switch to Android, you're supposed to pay all over again because you're
Mm.
entering a different planet. So the DMA, Digital Markets Act, would make it impossible to enforce that.
Yeah.
I think it's the other way around. A lot of people start with Android, and then when they get rich enough, they buy an iPhone, and they have to install everything all over again. So this is, I think, a simple way to explain what it tries to do. However, when I was reading the text, it kind of struck me that it went a lot about, for example, messaging. Messaging is really big. When we think of tech giants, we think of Google and social media, but actually messaging, I think, is in terms of how many time people spend using it, I think it's one of the biggest activities when people are online is messaging, I think. Which is why WhatsApp and Messenger, for example, are super, super big.
WeChat.
WeChat, yeah. So, and one of the things that the DMA is trying to enforce is that if you're sending a message, like an iMessage, for example, remember there was this controversy that you can receive an iMessage as a text message or as an iMessage. It was supposed to be free if you were sending it from one iPhone to the other.
Yeah.
But there was a difference in color.
The blue and the green
the blue
bubble.
and the green bubble, and that was not fair. I still don't see the problem really, but it was not fair. And then Apple had to change it, and now Apple will tell you before you even send the iMessage, without even knowing whether it will arrive on an iPhone or something else, is that your telecommunications provider might charge you for sending that message. So the DMA is going to enforce a lot of things in the field of messaging. And that's when I had to think of my glory days as the biggest influencer in Belgium for those couple of months that it lasted, for BlackBerry. And a BlackBerry never had that issue. For a BlackBerry, it had a technology which was called Hub, and a message. Back in the days, we were just talking about text messages, and then now you could add emojis, for example, which are also an alphabet that is easily transferred from one platform to another. And whether a message arrived as an SMS or as an email or as a chat message, you could always forward it or reply it as one of the other formats. It just didn't matter for a BlackBerry, and I like that. That's one of the things that and the physical keyboard. It's one of the things that I really miss about BlackBerry. For BlackBerry, it didn't matter what platform the message used to arrive on your BlackBerry. And it also didn't really matter what platform you wanted to use to send it or forward it or reply to someone else. I like that. So basically, I think we're moving towards that, and we'll see. But I think it's fairly anti-Apple, to be honest. And of course, we all know that Apple is this planet that it starts with an iPhone, and then before you know it, you buy an iPad, and then you buy an Apple Watch, and then you're lost. You're throwing out your PC, and because it's an ecosystem, and very smart. Even a very popular software back in the days, iTunes, by making it also available for PC, Steve Jobs actually found a way to suck in more people into the Apple ecosystem. And I have a subjective feeling that DMA is kind of trying to break that. By doing so, I think they're not helping any future operating system that is not Android or Apple, that is European. I think they're actually opening the door for Huawei. I think Huawei still uses a version of Android,
Yeah.
which surprises me because they are very close to. I mean, they're big enough to develop their own operating system, and there's even a name for that. It's called Harmony. Harmony. So they have it. They just don't use it on Huawei
I'm
phones
not a
in Europe.
fan of Huawei.
But it's cheap. It's just like these electric cars. They're coming, it's the C2C model. Basically, it's the copy to China model. So they instead of innovating, they will look what works and what sells, and then create their own version of it. So that's I know quite a few people who have either Samsung's, which is Korean, and or Huawei's HTC, a couple of them. But that's basically it. So there's a lot of people with a Huawei
But
smartphone.
they make a lot of devices. They also do Wi-Fi routers,
Yes, and
and it's shitty as
cell towers as well. So if we really want that 5G,
yeah.
there's a very high chance that the technology for the cell tower is also 5G, which worries a lot of people because then, of course, it's a bit hard to prove, but it kind of makes sense that the Chinese governmental institutions have a permanent backdoor in Huawei's technology. So just apart from that, it would be even easier, of course, to have this permanent backdoor access if they had their own third operating system, which would be called Harmony and runs on Huawei. Yeah, we'll see, but I'm not sure. It's I understand the logic behind the DMA, the Digital Markets Act, and the logic of trying to protect European tech companies, but by closing the door to Apple, Facebook, and Google, I think they're opening it for Chinese players who
Can
are
I
already there, and they have pretty good products that are usually also a lot cheaper. Speaking of privacy, because Huawei doesn't have a really, good reputation when it comes to protecting private persons' privacy. So the Mozilla Foundation,
Firefox.
yeah, it's most known for browsers like Firefox and Mozilla browser. Um, but there's a foundation, and one of the things that they research is privacy issues. And you might think, yeah, the internet. No, they came out with a report. They tested 25 car brands to see how cars handle your private information, and this is actually mind opening because one of the founders of WikiLeaks, so not Julian Assange, the other one, Jacob Appelbaum, he once said 15 years ago, a smartphone is a tracking device you can make phone calls with. And I watch a lot of true crime YouTube videos and listen to true crime podcasts. And very often, someone betrays their criminal acts either by DNA traces or by their smartphone. And even today, even in Belgium, it's pretty easy, for in the course of a criminal investigation to simply ask a telecommunications provider, for example, where someone's smartphone was at a particular point in time and what other smartphones they were with. And this is a lot more interesting than who does this computer MAC address belongs to, because if there's a computer, anyone can use it. If you don't secure it with a password, anyone can use it. So in the court of law, you might say, yeah, but you can prove it was me sending that email from that computer. However, smartphones are practically glued to our bodies. And I thought, of course, I do not have any criminal intentions whatsoever. But if I had, I would never take my smartphone with me because it betrays you.
Okay.
However, this is not enough. If any of you should have any criminal intentions, also leave your card at home.
Okay.
This has been going on for a while. Very simple technology in a car, like GPS systems, can already betray you because they have a history. It's pretty easy, even for like a police officer. That's, can I check your GPS? And you say, can I check something in your car? You say, of course, just a car, right? But I know of an actual case where someone was suspected to be a drug dealer, but they didn't have proof. But then he was stupid enough to let the police officer check the history of his GPS system. And then they just took a note of all the addresses and then just knocked on all of these doors.
Wow.
And all they needed was like one or two people who would, say, oh, yeah, sure, I bought drugs from this guy. Because buying drugs is usually not illegal, but selling is.
Yeah.
So that was like 10 years ago. Today, of course, most recent car models are connected. And what this article, now let me see, and it's, you might say where you've been, which is already interesting, because if you're like a drugs dealer, of course, where you've been might give away where you are. But according to the Mozilla Foundation, your car collects too much personal data about you. And they did a test with 25 car brands, including Tesla and Nissan. I drive a Nissan. And then they checked for a whole checklist of what kind of information do they have on you, and how secure that personal information is. And well, the answer is not very secure. And the worst offender was, so there are a couple of brands that are like, okay, like Dacia, for example, but most of them are really bad. Volkswagen, Tesla is the worst offender. Volkswagen, Mercedes, all the German brands.
Kia.
Mercedes, is Kia even in the list? Hang on, I don't want to insult you, but Hyundai is here, Buick. Sure. It's 25 brands, so it's very well possible that Kia just dropped off the list. Let me check. No, Kia. No, the only two ones with the lowest score are Renault and Dacia. Renault probably because the French don't care about what you do in your car, right? But did you know, for example, that your car can know about your, and this is interesting, Nissan, I drive a Nissan New Leaf, earned its second to last spot for collecting some of the creepiest categories of data we have ever seen. It's worth reading the review in full, but you should know it includes your sexual activity. Now, how on earth does my Nissan know about my sexual activity? Kia also mentions they can collect information about your sex life. And they do this. How does Mozilla Foundation find this out? They find this out by reading the legalese, so the legal language that is on purpose written in a way that normal people
Yeah.
don't have no clue what it's about. That they have the right to collect that information about you.
Would-
Uh, and
From
that's
where?
how the Mozilla, yeah, somewhere in the privacy, in the legalese of Nissan and Kia is that you have the right to collect data about your sexual activity, your sex life. And there are 6 companies that say they are allowed to collect your genetic information or genetic characteristics. I don't even want to know how they would know that. One of the reasons I would never buy a second-hand car again is because of, yeah, you could shine a black light on a car, and you know uh, if
This
cars could.
happened to you?
I
Yeah.
never did, but I discovered that in Mechelen, where I live, there's actually a company that is specialized in deep cleaning your car.
Hmm.
And it costs a couple of hundreds of bucks, but I now know it's definitely worth it to have your car deep cleaned, especially if you're like not the first owner. Anyway, this is just based on the research that they were doing on what is written in the privacy policy of these companies. And I think from a legal point of view, of course, these car brands are not breaking any laws. They're not stupid. I know that when I start the engine of my Nissan, there is this annoying pop-up every single time. It's like the privacy pop-up on a website, basically, but I have it in my car
Mhm.
that says something in the lines of we will be collecting information of we are driving, something like that, and I have to press OK every single time, or I can't drive my car. And this is, of course, for legal reasons. I have to consent every single time to Nissan collecting information and then sending it wirelessly to some big database. So legally, they can. The question is, of course, how safe are these data? And that's what Mozilla Foundation also says is there's actually a business model behind this, because if they can assume patterns about the lifestyle of someone, from where they drive to, what time of the day it is, how long they stay before they drive home, you can actually assume a lot of things
Okay.
from where someone drives. And then they can easily resell that information. So, and that is of course creepy because your car knows where you've been. It's like that horror movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, but your car literally knows what you did last summer. So if you were parked for 3 hours outside an abortion clinic, or if you go to a mosque every Saturday morning and stay there, your car is parked there. So if you're having extramarital affairs, your car knows, and Nissan knows if you drive a Nissan, and Tesla knows, and they can easily resell this information.
Crazy.
Yeah. So the link is in my newsletter, also called Chaos and Amazement. So it's no longer, wear gloves and don't leave any DNA on the crime scene. 1, 2, leave your smartphone at home.
And your car.
3, don't take your car. To be honest,
Don't take your
what a
electrical
hassle.
bicycle as well, because I got a Cowboy, a Belgian startup.
Oh yeah, and they're
They're
also connected.
also
If there's
connected
a
to it.
chip in there, it can
There's
collect
a chip
data.
in there.
It can collect data, and it will not constantly, but it will reconnect and send data. So, to be honest, it's a bit of a hassle,
Mm.
to commit a crime these days. Better just stay at home and watch
Yeah.
Netflix or something. Uh, so yeah, your car is betraying you, and there's a new concept. I heard about it before, but I never investigated it. And it is more or less privacy related, but it's a lot more than that. It's a concept called the Fediverse. 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 And so I heard about it before, and it was usually in the context of trying to solve identity issues online, which is still that's a problem that just got worse. It gets worse every year. It's been an issue on the on the internet. Nobody knows you're a dog, right? But the Fediverse is actually, remember Mastodon and the others. What they are trying to do is to implement the Fediverse. Basically, it means that the internet, if you want to do something on one of those tech giants platforms, you need a login with them and you have to use their servers. So you have to comply to their terms and conditions. And they, of course, will do things like use what they know about your interests to show ads to you. And so that's the name of the game today. That's not what the internet was made for, but hey, this is how the
No,
cookie crumbled.
it started decentralized, it became centralized, and this is going back to decentralized.
It's another attempt, because blockchain related identity systems are also an attempt. So the Fediverse, it's federated. It's more like a federation of servers, for example. And some of these servers you can host yourselves. And one of the things I like about the Fediverse is, for example, is that you can take your followers or your contacts, which are really, really important, with you
Yeah.
wherever you go. You could, in the logic of the Fediverse, you could also, just like the BlackBerry Hub you just talked about, you can actually switch easily between platforms with your messages as well. So your data, it's your personal data, of course, your identification, your contact list, and your content. All three of them are very important.
Yeah.
With the Fediverse, in theory, you have more control over that. So you're not locked in a box on Planet Apple, or locked in a box on Planet Mastodon, where absolutely nothing is going on. And it's interesting, this article on Mashable.com. It's a very well written and in-depth article that I highly recommend about the Fediverse. And then I was, of course, curious about their angle. Is that this would be interesting for influencers, not just for influencers, but particularly for influencers, because for them, their content is important, their audience is important, and they want to have control over this. They don't want to get demonetized all of a sudden, or get blocked or deleted and then lose all of their followers. So the Fediverse might give them more control to have their community around them, and to publish and distribute their content on different platforms without having to log in. Now, the best contenders right now, and then for me that was a bit of a surprise, is who could actually implement this? Because of course, technically, anyone could build a server network, some sort of a mesh network, where everyone would have to go to, and then everyone would have to use,
Yeah.
like Mastodon. But then you need scale. You don't just need the technology, the hardware, the software, the servers, the bandwidth. You also need scale. You need enough users, because if there are not enough users of this whatever verse, then nothing will be going on. There will be no
But I don't like the name. Apple introduced spatial web. So
spatial web. Yeah, spatial web. That was a stroke of genius. Because they didn't want to use the word metaverse or virtual reality. They just came up with a spatial. Yeah, I like it too. It has space in it.
yeah.
Yeah, I like it. But Fediverse, who is the best contender right now? Well, it's Meta, actually. Because just think this through. If the Digital Markets Act is actually very good news for Meta, because if this would mean that your message would have to be transportable from WhatsApp to Messenger to Mastodon, whatever, Meta will win, because they have most users. So they have everything to win with coming up with a way of structuring their technology differently, so that whether a message started on WhatsApp or on Messenger or on Mastodon doesn't really matter anymore. They can implement this,
Yeah.
and they have billions of users.
Yeah.
And then there's this one guy, typical Reddit user. He has Mastodon, it's fine, but the majority will still be on WhatsApp/Messenger, and then they can finally wrap WhatsApp and Messenger into one messaging burrito, which they had been wanting to do for a very, very long time. So if you just pick DMA and the messaging thing and being able to transport your content, your contacts, and your messages, I think Meta will be the biggest winner for that. And they could, by implementing
Yeah,
effectors.
I think it's time that we have a web backpack, something
Mhm.
like that, that we can have our wallet and stuff like that. Because why isn't everything in the cloud at this point? Why? Pri-
Because being connected, and that's something that I learned the hard way when I was in Mozambique and then a month after in Rwanda, is being constantly connected with the internet is not a given for the
no.
majority of people. And even if there technically is Starlink and 4G and 5G, it doesn't mean that people have the means to go online. So for us, it's normal. We're like breathing in good mobile internet, high quality Wi-Fi everywhere we go, and we don't even think about it anymore. But if you there's a lot that actually becomes impossible. Like in my case, do your job. If for some reason you can't go online because everything is in the cloud now. So um, 3 months ago, I would have agreed with you.
But now you
Uh,
went to Africa.
but then, yeah, but then I went to Africa and then I learned that it's not a given for everyone to be constantly online, and you get used to it while you're there. It's just that depending on being online is not a good idea.
Mm.
This reminds me of the one we shall not mention, who has Starlink, and then when the war in Ukraine broke out, he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to provide Starlink for free for the Ukraine." And then the Ukraine army. Have you read about this? So they had these underwater drones that were programmed to attack a certain base that was occupied by the Russians, and then Mr. Starlink found out, and he just pulled the plug. So the drones just washed somewhere on a beach, completely harmless. He just pulled the plug on them, and then nobody was supposed to know about that. But of course, it came out. You can't do something like that and then just hope that nobody will ever find out. And then he said, "Yeah, but I thought it was going to become a Pearl Harbor style escalation." And then I thought, that's not up to you to decide.
Go fight Mark. Come on, guy. Go fight him.
It's
With your big
my
mouth.
point is,
Yeah.
if you control the cloud,
Okay.
you can actually change the course of history. It's that powerful now.
Mm.
So I'm more of a fan of a federated verse, even though the name in itself, I completely agree. Fediverse is not a good name. It's not sexy. But then at least it's distributed, so you're not dependent on one provider in order to do your
Yeah.
stuff. But we live in exciting times, so there's no doubt about that. Uh, yeah. Um, okay, let's look at something really crappy. So as you know, I'm fascinated by art generated by AI, and this has been an ongoing topic in our show. Is AI generated lyrics and then AI generated vocals, AI generated music. But now, of course, and it reminds me a little bit of Gorillas, which was in itself also some sort of basically a virtual project with real people behind it. Except that in this case, so it's a Warner Music signed a digital character, which I read the press release as, oh, Jesus Christ. 2 years ago, you had press releases that said Hugo Boss hired a virtual influencer on Instagram, and then they were talking about Lil Michaela,
Yeah.
which is basically some designer, using the same technology as you do. So, but this is now continuing to music and music videos, and they got signed, just like Hugo Boss signed Lil Michaela. Warner Music signed a digital character called Nunuri, and Nunuri works together with a German DJ who is called Alef Farben. Sorry, when I see German, I have a tendency of pronouncing it in all caps.
Schmetterling.
Yes. And so the lyrics are AI generated, the singing voice is AI generated, but for those who are watching us on video, the character is not AI generated; it's just
Okay.
CGI. CGI.
Okay.
We're not going to listen to the whole song because it's, yeah. I'm just going to influence your opinion. If you don't agree, let us know in the comments. Really shitty. So we have come this far. Just a little push, it's enough to start a chain reaction. With some on the road, there's no turning back when I get traction. It just happens. Once you get me started on a runaway train, my heart is like an ocean, you ain't stopping my waves. Just a little push.
Okay.
Is it going to be a hit? Probably. But do we have to like it? No. And I am really, really disappointed by the CGI. You might say, yeah, Chloe, you're spoiled. But we know what the power is of today's creative tools. And
Yeah.
they don't even have to be AI powered. And then looking at this bad animation, I'm just thinking this would have been cool like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Gorillas. It's just like the gorilla.
It reminds me a lot,
Yeah.
but the song in itself, it's like you would ask an AI create a song that is a typical summer song and that everybody likes and that will get a lot of. So yeah, I absolutely hate it. It's called Nunuri and Alle Farben, who is the German DJ, and the song is called Dominoes, and the official music video absolutely sucks. Uh, so I hope this stimulates some of our listeners who are creatives. You can do better than this, and please do. Please make something that is more than. There's an artist called Refik Anadol, and he's been on my radar for a couple of years now. I've blogged about him a couple of times. So what he basically does is, for large museums, for example, the Museum of Modern Art, he makes installations. And I will try to explain, you will not be impressed at all. But what he will do for a large museum is that he will have an AI analyze a digitalized version of all of the art in the museum, for example. And then during his exhibition, on very large, I think there are LED screens, very high quality LED screens, usually covering the walls. There will be some sort of a kaleidoscope, a very flowing image, where on the fly art is being generated in the style of that museum,
Yeah.
for example, of that artist. So in itself, the idea is not original, but I must admit that if you see the images of people, they're just literally mesmerized. They stand in front of this work and it's mesmerized. So you kind of get hypnotized by it because it is created on a style that was already popular for some reason because it got a place in a museum. So it does have a high perceived aesthetic value. um, but then it kind of creates it on the fly and then it flows. The images flow from one image
Mhm.
into the other. So that's his style now. Why am I talking about this? Because he's been doing this for a while now. In Las Vegas, there is a new, yeah, what is it? Is it a building?
It's a sphere.
Yeah, it's called the Sphere.
The sphere. And it's really large.
It's
and
awesome.
It's yeah, a lot 50, 55
It's huge,
million LED
on the
lights on the
outside.
outside. Yeah, that's really crazy. Maybe we should
The
show
Sphere has
it.
been there for half a year now, I think. In Las Vegas, they try to make things look really good, even though
The
it's a thing like
the
for
eye
gambling in the middle of the desert.
the eye that is opening up and oh, that's crazy.
But basically, it's like for the Belgians. So you have the atomium, and you have these big spheres, 9 spheres, that kind of that make up a construction, some sort of a building. If you would take one of the spheres of the atomium, there are 9 of them. If you would take one of them and just let it rest on the ground,
Mhm.
and instead of the shiny exterior, you would have like something like a projection on it of moving images. That's what the sphere is like. So especially at night, it looks really spectacular. So they had, of course, like sponsored messages on it. They had like an eye that was
This one.
the
This one.
eye that
It's
was.
crazy.
They also had like a baseball.
Yeah.
Uh,
Basketball.
is that a basket? Oh, that's a sorry. That's a big basketball. So you could see that they've been very very creative
Yeah.
with it, and now they've let Refik Anadol loose on this sphere. And so on the 1st of September, his project started, and it's until the end of the year. And so all we have now is a picture, but I'm looking forward to the images as well. And I'm already I want to go. I want to go to Las
Yeah,
Vegas.
the still images are it's not that impressive. It's only when it's moving, it's a video, then you think, oh
Yeah,
wow,
it
this
is.
is
It will be if it's in his style.
yeah.
I don't know from the article. I don't know where he took his inspiration from, but it appears to be based on flowers a lot. It will be awesome. I just know. And
Also, like if you have water and you pour in like
something that is oily.
color
Yeah,
oil, and then you have yeah, maybe this is amazing to see in real life.
I really, yeah, I really enjoy projects like this because he is the type of artist that makes things that are being enjoyed by a large group of people without it being like the common denominator of what everyone likes.
Mhm.
What we just saw, the crappy song, is a common denominator. It's like the type of song that most people will like. It's like a modern version of music. You can play this type of music on Spotify in an endless loop, and it will not annoy you. It will annoy me, but
Sure.
most people will just enjoy it, and it make them, what Refik Anadol does, he also creates art that is based on material that already a lot of people think is pretty, but the result still stops you in your tracks.
Yeah.
And I think when it does something like that, that's when it's art. I think so. I take my hat off to you, Mr. Anadol.
But
Um,
it's actually a concert venue in Las Vegas.
inside
Inside, yeah.
in the
It's a
sphere, and do they
immerse.
have like images on the inside as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, as well.
Probably.
It's an immersive
Yeah, experience, so they can
experience.
imitate like a blue sky.
Yeah, I think the weekend already had a concert or planned to have a concert
Oh,
there.
that's even more awesome because if you then if you have like an artist who brings like their own visual effects with them, that's just
That's
awesome.
the future. I think Walt Disney also made this happen in the 60s or 50s
Mm.
that he wants to have a cycloarma, it's called.
Well, Disney is interesting because he wanted to build like a dream city called
Mm.
Epcot, and that brings us to the next subject. Because if I look at the globe, I think never mind the metaverse. I will just go physically
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Las Vegas and get immersed in a wonderful experience over there. There's a bunch of millionaires who decided to build their own physical metaverse somewhere in a plot of worthless land in California. And it just they did it secretly. So it's a project called California Forever, and uh, the website that goes with it, and I think it's simply called californiaforever.com, is yeah, what is it? So there is what the website says it is, and then there is what I think it really is. So if you look at the website, you can see a number of renders, and they look as if they've been made with water pastel, and it kind of says everything
It's made with AI in the style of.
in the style of, yeah, it's well, so the project, so very secretly, through puppet constructions, plots of lands that were just agricultural lands, farmland really, were being bought up until all of them together formed a rather large plot. And then someone found out, and then I think it was an article in, I don't know, the Washington Post or something, and then it all came out, and then all of a sudden they had to come out in the open about it. California Forever is a project that is backed by a couple of
Tech giants.
yeah, one of them, Reid Hoffman, for example. And what they really want to do is to create their ideal city in California. California, I understand because of the climate, of course. It's the part of America where oranges grow easily. It's a balmy weather, you know. It doesn't have any extreme weathers. Even in I was in San Diego, for example, and even in winter, it never freezes. It's about 100 kilometers from LA, and that's also very important information because you can easily get there by car. However, if you would think that a bunch of billionaires, if they get together and invest in the perfect city of the future, before you see this website, you might think of something futuristic, right?
Yeah, yeah,
What was that Futurama, right? You would think of something like that, futuristic city, with I don't know, buildings that look as if they're made from aluminum and then with plants hanging from them, and
but
then
it's more like a
flying cars.
Toscane vibe.
It looks like someone who's been drinking a lot of Tuscany wine and then
Yeah,
started on a canvas with watercolors. Yeah. So the only thing missing is here is like lavender
yeah,
or sunflowers, things like that. And the idea of the village is a lot like what American people think European Mediterranean
yeah,
life was like before the economic crisis hit in the Mediterranean countries. So there's a lot of green. People are walking around, cycling. The houses are rather small. All of them are different, which is also a very European thing, except if you live in the UK. There's a little lake where people can, float their canoes. It's weird. I had an uncanny feeling when I looked at
it's a
it
little bit
because
fishy.
it's fishy,
Yeah.
and that's the other side, I think. So they quickly made this, obviously, with I think Midjourney, just to give a public face to the public, to say this is California forever. It's going to be a sustainable city, and they throw in some solar panels, and everything's gonna be fine. Unfortunately, this is not how cities work. Um, it looks so. There's two possibilities. I have two theories. So the first theory is that this is the Californian version of the kind of gated communities you find in Florida for senior citizens.
Yeah,
So in Florida, you have like large gated communities, and then all of them, just like a theme park, all of them have a particular theme. Uh, you can have one that literally looks like a medium-sized city in Tuscany in Italy,
mhm,
and you can have another one that has a more, I don't know, is more geared towards people who like sports, and then another one is more. So that's how why a lot of senior citizens, the ones who have money though, they will eventually buy a house in one of those gated communities, and then every night on the town square there are activities. There's like line dancing and there's restaurants, and then the senior citizens who live there, they live in their own little bubble, and
yeah.
everything is taken care of for them, and it's a safe environment, and then everybody is white. So that's that's what these things literally look like. So it could be something like that, because we are talking about billionaires, but billionaires usually are over 50.
Mhm.
Most of them are actually over 60 now. So they have to either they want to. Most of them also literally want to live until 100. So don't see why you would want that, but most of them actually, invest in technology that will allow them to live until 100 years old. So are you going to do that in LA or in Silicon Valley? Absolutely not.
No.
Because it's becoming too expensive there to have a decent house. The rent is too damn high. There's also no public transport to speak of. There's a lot of a modern city in the US is it just doesn't work anymore for most people. And if you feel threatened by this, either you go with the flow and make the best out of it, like you see a lot of people in New York do. You say, yeah, well, it's New York.
But Americans also have a love affair with Europe or something like that. They
Yeah,
think it's all romantic
they
and
do. And then they visit Paris and they get, they get like a shock, the Paris syndrome. They are so shocked by how dirty
yeah,
Paris is and how rude people in Paris sometimes can be,
yeah,
especially if they know you're an American tourist. So
yeah.
it is their romantic idea. So it could be either the Florida senior citizens gated community, or something more sinister is going on here. And this is just something I just, it's a personal opinion, so you don't have
If
to
this
agree
is a
with me.
place for the retired billionaires,
Yeah,
I'm in. I want to start a wine yard over there with an Italian
yeah,
guy or something
but
like that.
what if it's not about them being a senior citizen, but about bringing them and their perfectly engineered children there?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, to kind of outbreed the
Utopia.
inferior, yeah, the in their eyes genetically inferior people.
Hmm.
And why do I mention eugenics, which is a very touchy subject because it was so closely related to what the Nazis did. Scientifically speaking, this was one of their main focuses. I know that the whole idea of eugenics is still very much alive with some of these billionaires that I speak of. And the demographics, of course, they constantly change. I mean, if you just, that's what I like so much about 23andMe, is that a lot of people for the first time realize that we are all the result of a mixing and melting of genetics, because that's how, you know a species evolves.
Yeah.
However, this doesn't stop some individuals of thinking that it's better to have particular genes and it's better to avoid other genes. And then they have an idea of what superior genes are. And you'd be surprised how many of them actually will try to create an environment. And I'm not going to mention him, but specifically create 10 children with 4 or 5 different women who are all coincidentally beautiful and very
And then
intelligent.
employers.
They're not just waitresses or something. They're all off drugs. I mean, they all come from a good family. They're all very skinny, and then make 10 children. I mean, 10. You might say like 2 or 3. That might be like, oops, but 10 is on purpose. So this type of billionaire actually is looking for a closed environment, not to live out the last decades of their lives, but to actually start a new society of you know genetically.
I think we can be sure that in 200, 300 years, most of the population on the world is artificial. In a way,
Or what do you mean by artificial?
yeah, genetic manipulated is also artificial.
Yeah, but the word artificial is dangerous because it's perceived as negative. That
Mm.
because it's artificial, it's not good. In some way engineered, I think. Of
Yeah,
course,
engineer.
if you would have the chance to somehow engineer the genes of your to be born child, if they say your child is going to have, and that's where it becomes dangerous.
We
A
see it
life
now.
threatening, it has a genetic
Yeah.
issue that is life threatening, but you can fix it by engineering the genes in utero. Then you would say, yes, take my money.
You already see it with plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it.
If
At one
the
age,
only ones who are not doing it are the ones who don't have money
Yeah.
to pay for it. Absolutely. So why not with genetics, right? But of course, with this particular type of billionaire and the kind of superiority complex that they have because they got this far and they're so successful, they want to breed perfect children, so that they can take care of their legacy and of the fortune and start a perfect new world, which I think is super creepy. And I only started thinking this way because it might be just a conspiracy theory that I believe. I mean, why not? But the images on CaliforniaForever.com, I thought you could have picked any image. You could have picked any image. You could have literally have 3D versions of the actual architecture and the systems. How are you going to take care of the sewage system? How is your energy management going to be? That is interesting. If you want to Will you have public transport? So how will the little machine work? That you can make 3D images of that. You can make an animation of that. That would have been no.
I think it's
They
a
just have
romantic.
this
Yeah,
this a romantic idea. Who
yeah.
cares about romantics? There's something else
This
going
was
on.
a
It's a
short.
smoke screen.
This was a short prompt. Mediterranean area, village, a lot of people, coziness, stuff like that, and then
Yeah,
put it out there in the style of
I don't buy it, man.
8K.
California forever.
Yeah,
I think we're looking at something a lot more sinister here, and I just but that's just me. Maybe I'm just jealous, you know. Maybe I'm just jealous. I have to live here in this, you know, this bad Belgian weather forever instead of
California weather.
picking
Yeah,
yeah, grapes from the vine in your own vineyard in California. Oh well, there goes the vibe. Let's try and get into a good vibe now. So I found a website called My Noise, and it looks like a website that was literally made 20 years ago, maybe even worse. It has a non-design, uh, but what it does is basically a catalog of whatever audio that might help you calm down um, in this chaotic world. And there are other ways to calm down. You have this ASMR, videos on YouTube, for example. But sometimes all you need is a little bit of
frequencies.
white noise in the
Yeah,
background. When you're working from home, you just want something in the background. And I know a few people who actually use the radio for that. They were really listening to the
really.
radio, but you just wanted something
Okay.
in the background. So my noise has you covered. If you're looking, you can pick any noise over there, but it's pretty simple. There's a very long list and some categories. If you want to go to sleep,
I don't know what this is, but I want to just click.
yeah,
No, more. Hmm.
white rain. Yeah, delivers. You can tweak the controls. I'm not sure what they do. Maybe there's a little bit of thunder. Wow, now I'm thinking I have to go check the roof.
I need to go to the toilet. Okay, nice.
Yeah. So I like it because it has such a large catalog of noises, and you can simply click them. You don't have to do anything. It's a very simple website. I wish there were more websites like this. They just deliver on what they promise, and it's a very simple product. So Summer Night Thunder. Okay, one more then. The problem with Thunder is, of course, you don't know. Oh, I like this one.
Where's the thunder?
It's just rumbling in the
Yeah.
distance. Oh, and then you have to wait for the lightning and calculate
How far it's.
how far away it was.
Uh,
Oh, there you are.
Nice. Beautiful.
Yeah, and then I would like to go out with a bang.
Oh, I got one thing.
Oh,
I want to
one more
finish.
thing.
No, I want to
I
finish
want to
with one
present
thing.
something like an iPhone.
I got a funny video about the Pixel versus the iPhone. Did
Oh,
you saw
okay,
it, the
and
advertisement?
who published it? Who made it?
Google.
Google.
Yeah.
They redid the logo, the Android logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did, and it's got rainbow colors in it, so that will make a lot of people nervous. They will probably have to buy iPhones for their children if they don't want them to become gay or something.
Look, this is really funny.
Wow, that view never gets old. Yeah. Pixel, I need to tell you something. Is everything okay? Well, when I turned 14, I started to see things differently. Wow, 14, the big one for. When I was your age, people were showing me off to their friends. They still do. You're legendary. It's not the same. The way their friends compliment your photos. So sharp. I can unblur your photos for you. We don't have to tell anyone. Just stop. Astrophotography mode. Call assist. 30x zoom. You can do so many things I may never be able to. No, don't say that. It's true. I'm actually jealous of your AI. But what about your blue bubbles? They're so blue. The bubbles. Is all I have to show for all my years on Earth the color of a bubble? I mean, millions of people have waited in line for me. Right. I've been the most popular lighter at concerts for over a decade.
Wait
Preach.
for it.
I'm in the pockets of some of the most.
I know that
Quick! Somebody get a lightning charger.
Oh my god. Oh, I laughed so hard with this. And it's coming made by Google.
It's made by Google. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought it was made by a fan. Or
No,
something.
no. Made by Google.
So the iPhone is now 14 years old. Google is 25 years old now. You know who's over 80 years old?
No. Rolling Stones?
Yeah,
I saw
Mick
something.
Jagger is 81.
Wow.
Wow. So if this surprised everyone, I think they're coming out with a new album. Can you imagine the pressure of the team working with them? You're like the producer or the sound mixer or whatever you are for the effing Rolling Stones. So they're coming out with a new album, and the first single just dropped. And we're just going to um, listen to the first few minutes
Okay.
of the new song. I think, yeah, it's a Rolling Stones song, all right. It's called Angry.
Wow.
Don't get angry with me. I never caused you no pain. I won't be angry with you, but I can't see straight. As a river runs, the rivers run dry. We haven't been loving. I wanna know why. Why you angry with me? Why angry? Please just forget about it. Cancel out my name.
Nice. Also cool.
We don't need
Yeah.
AI. Do you recognize where this was from?
Mm.
It's Las Vegas, baby.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is how you do it. They're just showing everyone this is how you do it. Some things never get old, and it's kind of gives you hope, you know. Even if you live a hard life, take a lot of drugs, have sex with a lot of women, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That worked.
Yeah.
It worked for them,
It worked for them.
and
Wow.
look at them now, still making great music when they're over 80.
I see the sound of your mic was not that great.
Sorry,
so
guys.
I think you put it better in the socket. So
Yeah, it's we'll thank you for the feedback. We'll work on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, must have been something with wires or so.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening in any case, and we'll be back.
Yeah,
next week.
thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.
And see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.